June 6, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the NinjaTrader 8 2000 tick chart. You can go down to the descriptions below to see where I thought I saw setups as well as where I took my trades. I found out from someone else that if you watch my video at like 1.25 speed or 1.5 speed, you can get through my video a lot faster. And I think it just flows faster because I know I talk at a certain pace and I tend to ramble. So if you want to get through the video faster, just watch it at down there at the YouTube in the lower right. Just speed me up, or just go to the timestamps if you're looking for a particular setup to compare against your setup. Overall, trading kind of stayed within this big yellow trading range. The big thick blue lines here and the big thick blue lines there is the pre-market high and the pre-market low. I also want to point out that there was no economic data that came out today, so there was no big shock to the system. Overall, prices stayed within about I would say about 30 point trading range or 30 point range. And I just saw kind of an M format or M configuration, similar to what yesterday looked like, kind of like an M shape. It's a big M. And today was similar, but there was a kind of like these big swings and big legs. I didn't find too many setups, and there were a few areas of consolidation. I also thought I saw some kind of resistance here. And the top of this big trading range, it really only got confirmed at the very last day, the very last part of the day. And the bottoms didn't really fall anywhere too consistently, except for maybe right here. So I could probably draw this right here. However, I didn't really take any trades based off of that. And it only became apparent after the trading day closed. So I'm going to get into my trades. I took a total of 4 trades today. The first 2 trades I lost, and then the next 2 trades I won. But then trade number 2, I think, was an emotional trade that quickly occurred after my first trade, which turned out to be red. So I'm pretty sure I got tilt and got triggered and just jumped in for no good reason. So I'll talk about that when I get there. In the pre-market, prices just kind of chopped within this section, this trading range. And then when it opened, the market kind of sold off. I didn't really see a very clean setup. I did draw the shortened trend line coming down. I saw one big leg here and then a possible measured move leg down here. And lo and behold, it actually completed and hit the bottom of the measured leg, then bounced. But that's no reason to take a trade unless I saw a good setup. And for sure, I didn't want to take a long because it was too far from the EMA. So I left it alone. Prices kind of chopped and consolidated for a little while, and then they moved up. And after it pushed up once, pulled back, and it pushed up the second time. So I thought I saw one leg here, and then I was suspecting another leg here. There is a new high here, a first entry long, and then a second entry long here. But there's a terrible signal bar, and then the second bar that triggers after it is pretty good, but it's already too late. So you don't know if you're going to hit the top or you're going to hit this pre-market low, and it might act as a resistance because it rejected prices once already. So I for sure just left it alone. Prices moved up, pulls back, it goes into another congestion consolidation range. Now there's like second entries all over the place, but they're not necessarily high probability, so I left it alone here. I also draw this ascending trend line here, and at one time I wasn't sure where the top was, so I was actually lower here, and I had an overshoot here, and I actually dragged it a little higher afterwards. But let's just play with this, is what I saw during the time when prices bounced here, and I was pretty confident about the support, and I wasn't sure about the resistance. It overshot and it pulls back down, makes a first entry long, and that's all I have. Prices continue moving up. Here's where you actually get your second entry long, but I didn't like that. And you also get a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, and then a failure. This failure, I noticed, it was a good strong signal bar, but it was also pretty close to the top of this trading range created by the pre-market high, which is back here. So I didn't want to buy into that, buy off of this candle and potentially hit some kind of resistance up here. So I certainly left that alone. Prices did overshoot. Looks like it's punching out of this trading range formed by the 2 blue lines formed by the pre-market highs and lows. But again, I didn't see any real setup other than a failed breakout potentially. but it did confirm 1, 2, potentially a third time and maybe a fourth time here, small little overshoots. So close enough that I would consider that this trading range or this trading channel, this is a true top of it at the time. Then it breaks out. So when it broke out a second time, I was thinking maybe I'm dealing with a slightly bigger channel. So I actually drew this and had it touch right here. Makes it from one side to the other. There is a second entry long here, but it's kind of way high from the EMA and kind of middle of nowhere because you have a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. But I didn't want to take that because it just felt like I'm already pressing toward the top, so I'd be buying the high. I saw this overshoot, and what I did was I actually made it this. So I got rid of the overshoot, and you're going to find out, well, I'm going to find out that it was a bad idea to do. Prices continue down. It makes a new high here, first entry long, and it makes technically a second entry long, and then it fails. So it makes second entry long, fails, then it comes right back. So I also have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. This is the signal bar, creates a second entry short. It's a bad signal bar, comes down. Now it feels like the trade might have already occurred without you because you would want to have taken it up here. Otherwise, you're going to hit the bottoms right here. I see kind of an area of congestion. Also, I draw a descending trend line here for 2 touches, and I put the other side right here for 2 touches. So it's not really confirmed yet because I need a third touch. You could argue this is a third touch, but it's a little close, but I didn't accept it yet. Prices continue moving down. So what I saw here was actually one leg down, a pullback, one push up, pullback, second push up. So there's one leg down, kind of another leg right here with 2 smaller legs in between, and then a second leg down. So I thought I saw a new high, first entry long on the visual, comes down. When I saw this flash up, I thought this is a second entry long, also bouncing off the bottom of this trading trend channel. But this is where it's going to come back and bite me. So I actually entered one tick above right there. And when it flashed down, that made me regret taking that trade because the EMA is holding pretty flat. And I should have waited because it is actually 1 touch, 2 touch, a third confirmation now. There's only 2 down here. So this is buying into resistance. So even though I saw this, I should have waited to see what the next candle was or look for a higher low confirmation. I didn't, and I jumped in. That's where I entered. That's where I got stopped out because this is kind of a big candle. So I actually had my exit 1 tick below here. I should have had it 1 tick below here to follow the rules. However, had I done that, I would have lost anyways right here. But let me rewind. Now, since I didn't see this as an overshoot, I thought it was going to bounce back up. However, after I lost in that trade, I thought about it and I said, actually, if it was lower right here, then this overshoot would have indicated to me that perhaps it's going to make it to the other side and create another overshoot. Even though it's a small overshoot, certainly I shouldn't have dragged the price of the trend channel all the way up to here and negate these two because it fit actually better down here with 2 touches. So that was my first trade, and it was a loser, but I haven't lost on it yet. I mean, I lost right here. I should have kept my stop down here, but I would have lost anyways. So what happened was a few minutes later, I decided that I saw this as a higher low, which was no reason. I mean, yes, technically it is a low that's higher than this one, but this trade has no real setup. I've already failed here. This is a doji candle. It's not very encouraging. So when I saw this, I convinced myself that prices were indeed still going to move up because remember, this trend channel was actually up here, and I thought, okay, maybe it's a small break and now it's going to overshoot to the other side. But that was no good reason to take that trade. So when I lost here, I entered on the next one because I said, oh, lower high. This is the blue arrows blue triangles where I entered. So I already lost going short and now going long, and I decided I want to go long again. And this is where I got stopped out way down here, which is foolish. So 2 red trades in a row. This one I misread. I actually didn't draw the trend channel correctly, and this one was more of a FOMO, not a good reason to have taken a loss trade. Prices then continue moving down. It breaks out of this descending trend channel now, and it's gonna, I'm for sure I see an overshoot, and I think it's gonna flash back up. It goes up, and I see a new high here. I also see a new low here. See a first entry short, second entry short. When I see this next candle, I suspect the second entry short's going to fail. So I saw first entry short, second entry short. It is coming right into this descending trend channel resistance, but I suspect, even though this overshot, it consolidated, pushed down, I'm thinking this is one shortened trend channel going up. This is the first break. It wants to come up and test this high. So even though it broke out of this guy, this one had an overshoot, so I'm thinking it's going to break out to this side. So number one, this overshoot, I'm thinking is going to have a reaction out here. So I'm thinking long. On top of that, this big channel wants to come back and test this. So that gives me a second reason to think it's going long. EMA is holding. This is a pretty good, solid signal bar. Gives me a third reason that I'm thinking long. Even though this is the pre-market highs, I see it stop right here. So I'm thinking if it breaks above, it might flash up. So that was kind of my third reason to think that it might go long. I mean, it is a little risky because it could bounce and be rejected off this line. So that's one of the reasons to not take it. But I still had the two other reasons that I thought, okay, it might push up because it broke out of this shortened trend channel, so it wants to test this high as well, which I kind of pointed out previously. So I enter one tick above. I kept my stop one tick below this one, which is the low. Flashes up, and I write it up, and I was able to get out right here. So that's my third trade. I was able to get green, and I was, I mean, I'm not sure if I read the chart completely correct, but at the time it seemed to have made sense to me. Prices continue chopping. It breaks up, and I draw this support here, and I just put a resistance here. Prices continue moving up. There's small consolidation here. You do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. This is a good signal bar, but there's no other key entry point. It didn't touch the EMA. It's kind of at the midline of this ascending trend channel that I don't have super confidence in yet, just because it hasn't been confirmed. Then it pushes up. It hits the top here. And so at this point, I'm seeing a double top. So I draw kind of a resistance up here, and I later turned it into a big channel. But at the time, that was just, at least I knew it touched twice. So if it's going to touch a third time, or come up back here, I would be keeping an eye on it for a triple test rejection. Prices continue moving down. Draw the shortened trend channel coming down. It consolidates again, just chopping left and right. These are just very ugly bars. Then it breaks down below. I draw this one from touching here, touched twice, touched three times. And then on the bottom, I traced it and I touched once and touched twice. It might have been a little lower at the time, but it didn't matter because I didn't have three confirmations, but at least in the top, I looked like I had three confirmations. Prices continue going down. This is where I actually take my fourth trade. Now, the fourth trade here, excuse me. I actually like this trade because it looks like there's a new low formed here. It's a first entry short, comes down, pulls up. Doesn't make a new low yet. It's still a little bit higher. It makes a second entry short. I also thought this is a new high, first entry long, pulls down, second entry long, and this is a second entry long failure. However, I also like that this is the EMA is rejecting prices back down. This is a fourth touch now of this descending channel. The EMA rejected, and then it made a pretty strong, decent signal bar to go short on. So I thought, okay, this looks like it might be worth a try. So I actually entered a little bit later because I wanted to see what happened on this next candle. When it formed, I said, okay, I'm going to actually drop a limit order one tick below the original signal bar. And this one was 42.80.50. So I actually dropped it in at 42.80.25. And I get filled right here, 42.80.25. This candle also lets me get my quick scalp. And that's where I got my fourth trade, which is green. And I was like, okay, that's good. I didn't want to push it or chance the potential of it not getting all the way down here. So I actually put it one tick above, which is right here, one tick above here. It is pushing it a little bit, but I was able to get through. Now, if I had gone for like 2 points, this one would have certainly fulfilled my 2-point target, but 1 point was just good enough because I wasn't sure if this would have ended up being a triple test. So I didn't want to have 1 touch, 2 touch, a third one, and bounce right back up. So left that alone. But I was also confident I was going with trend at the time. And prices continue chopping. It breaks up now. It looks like it makes a shortened trend channel. It's the first break, makes a new extreme already, pulls back, breaks back down through. I draw this shortened trend channel going down. It breaks up again and looks like it's just falling into this consolidation range. I did see a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. Now, I didn't really like this second entry short because it's a pretty bad signal bar. It's very bullish. It formed above the EMA. The trigger bar is pretty good. It's formed super bearish, closed right at the low. And I was thinking maybe it's going to be a second entry short that continues down because I might see a triple test here because of 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, try to break through 3 times. Then when this one formed, it actually gapped down because this is where the close was. This is where the open. So it made this big, big gap and then it flashed up and back down. And I was thinking, okay, this might actually be a trade here, but it feels too late because if it is in a trading range, I'd be pushing toward the bottom. So I wasn't sure if this is the bottom of the trading range at the time or it might have been down here. So I left it right here at the time just because it looked like it had a little bit more confirmation as a resistance, excuse me, as a support. So I didn't want to take this trade. If you got into the trade, you'd have to sit through this chop and be nervous, and then finally it would have filled you. However, if you did take that trade, you could have seen this as a new high, first entry long, second entry long. So it might have been a little bit more nervous to be sitting through this, and you would have had a more visibility that this potentially is in a trading range. So all in all, I'm glad I didn't take this trade. Prices continue moving down. It touches like 3 times. It's supporting off of here. I did see a new high here, first entry long, potentially second entry long, except this signal bar is pretty bearish, so I didn't really like that. Prices continue moving up. It goes through up in this shortened trend channel. It's the first break. I saw this as this localized, so I just counted all this as a new low. It's a first entry short, 1 tick below, pulls up, second entry short. However, I didn't count this really as a true first entry short. I just saw as one big leg move up. And this is the first entry short confirms. This bullish candle goes up and then comes back down. So I saw this as one move up, first entry short, move up, second entry short. Now the second entry short, I thought there's a potential trade here because this failure for the second entry short formed above the EMA. It's a pretty decent signal bar. And it's also the first break of this shortened trend channel break. So I'm thinking it might want to come up and touch this high. So it's kind of like 2 factors giving me confidence that this might have been a good trade. As the EMA is holding, it's a good signal bar, so that's one factor. Second factor, broke out of this shortened trend channel. It's coming right back up. Also, I wasn't sure, but I saw that this resistance held 3 times. And so even though it broke below consolidating and came back up, I wasn't sure, so I didn't count it as a key factor, but it was just something I noticed that this might have been bouncing off this as a 4th test. So then a 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, and potentially a 4th touch. So if you did try to enter, I mean, it would have worked out, but I don't have enough experience to see these. I haven't seen these enough to know that this would have been a good trade or a bad trade. So just chalk it up to more seat time that I'll need. But I also saw 1 leg up, pull back, second leg up. Second leg up coincidentally ends at the top of the pre-market high, which is right here. Well, whether I take a trade or not, it would depend on, I need a really strong setup. Otherwise, it hasn't been confirmed enough times by this blue line. Then prices continue chopping. It goes up. It touches. It looks like it's having a little bit of trouble, but then it keeps going up. But I don't see any good entries. This overlapping orange line is just something I drew because I saw it as a very strong move up. However, there's no good entries because it's too far from the EMA. Prices continue moving up. It touches once, twice, and then a third time now. I was looking for something here when this occurred, but I couldn't convince myself there was a second entry or a clean second entry that I could recognize to take this trade because the signal bar is bad. But I like that it touched both the EMA and it confirmed the second touch. Then when it came here to the third touch, I also couldn't convince myself that there was a trade there. There was no second entry short failure. There's no second entry long. So unfortunately, even though this got close to the EMA and it touched the bottom and confirmed the third time, there was no trade there for me to take. Then prices continue chopping down, bounces. And here I do see a failed second entry short. New low here, first entry short, comes back, second entry short. I think this is actually a trade worth taking, except for the fact that it's already pretty close to the end of the day. It's 12:48 Pacific Standard, or 3:48 Eastern Standard. So why I like this trade is a shortened trend channel goes up, it breaks out, it makes a new high, but just barely, right? Then it pulls back and it tries to make a second new high. What I liked about this is it's a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, and this second entry short fails immediately. It comes down, it traps a bunch of people that decide to go short, flashes up. Not only does it flash up, it takes out a bunch of people who might have went short and had their stops up here. So if I wanted to enter this trade, I certainly wouldn't have entered as a failure here, and I certainly wouldn't have entered as a second entry short here. Reason being is second entry short, after this big bullish move up, you're thinking even though it broke out, it tested the high here, it might want to come back and test this, but there's a chance it can make one leg down, pull back, and then make another leg down. But this is already consolidating. So certainly when I saw this, I would have been thinking it might be bullish, but I wouldn't decide to take a short here either because it's also right against the EMA. So shorts are out of the question, but thinking for a long, when I saw this and I saw this as a failed second entry long, I would have been leaning more toward going long. And I would have placed an order after I saw this close one tick above this guy. So this guy closed at 42.89.50. I put it at 42.89.75. So here I would have gotten filled, goes up, and then here I most likely would have scalped out. I would have only scalped for a point and not aimed for too much, because here prices are consolidating. If you went for more, you would have gotten more, but it is getting toward the localized high. Now, again, this trade isn't worth taking for the mere reason that it's already close to the end of the day. But if this setup had occurred earlier in the day, then I would have probably tried to take this trade, because there's being so close to the end, I don't want to end on a red and then or be stuck. So that's one of the main reasons I don't want to trade when there's only like about 10, 15 minutes left. And then prices just kind of continue into the close. So that's how I saw the charts today. There weren't too many setups that I could identify. First trade was a misreading. Second trade was just foolish. And then the next two trades were green, so they turned out all right. So hopefully that was helpful.